Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creators Podcast, where we explore creativity through conversation. This episode is a unique one, and it's also part of a series that we are doing in collaboration with the Auto Design Club. That is Izzy's birth child. That is her really, really cool endeavor, which we will learn a little bit about today, I'm sure. So the Auto Design Club, if you don't already know, is a group of creatives with a dream of uniting the design community, and they're doing a phenomenal job at that. So this series of episodes is a collaboration between the Creators Podcast and the Auto Design Club, where there was a live panel discussion hosted on August 22nd, 2024, exploring the topic of working with your hands. Izzy reached out to me to host that live panel because that's a theme that's pretty relevant in my life. So I had the opportunity to do something I've never done before, which is host a live interview.
You did amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really, really nervous, but I feel like I grew a lot from it, and I learned a lot about how to potentially improve. So as part of that, you know, we have this series of follow-up episodes with the 4 panelists, and then Izzy wanted to interview me as the 5th.
Yeah.
So before we dive into that, I just want to say a big shout out to Pano Media for powering the production here. And also a big shout out to Midnight Hour Studios. If you'd like to learn more about either of them, check out the description below with a little special something for you. And we hope that by the end of this episode and all of our episodes, that you can gain one more piece to the never-ending puzzle that is your creative journey. So I'm going to close my notebook. I just introed the podcast. Yes. I'm closing the notebook and I'm putting it down.
Just like that. Then how do you feel though, like as the roles are reversed right now?
Very relaxed.
That's great. Like there's complete trust.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt when giving you like the driving seat for the panel, because I personally knew that you were doing this for so long, like interviewing people with podcasts. And I'm like, who would be someone that could lead the conversation and add some of his own experiences to the conversation? Because you need that to be a good host. You need to uplift with like similar experiences. And you are so good at doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, today, I mean, you have been interviewing back to back. So we'll try to give you the most out of this episode.
My brain still works. I'm still awake here.
mean,
it might be that enormous coffee you got. It's like this tall.
Just like energy for this. But also I feel like this is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but like that drive to continue even though you're very tired because you know there's the end goal. To me, that's a very much entrepreneur feature. How do you feel about that? Like, do you think it's true?
The drive to continue?
To continue when even though you're tired and you know you've done so much, but you're like, I can see the end result and I just need this much to get to it. That's very much entrepreneur.
I agree. I find even though I'm tired and the things are hard, I get energized from, I guess, the milestones or the days, like when you maybe spark inspiration in someone else, or you get a result that you didn't expect, or you get a feedback that you didn't expect. Like that's like, whoa, cool. Like this is amazing. And that energizes me. And also I'm a type of person, I like to find limits in everything. And by pushing, I do find the limits of what I'm capable of. And then I like to kind of ride those limits so I can do as much as I can, which is, I don't know, I find it fun. I like, because we're capable of a lot. We are very capable beings. So I like to kind of like ride those limits.
I like your mindset in here, and I think a lot of it also comes from mindset. So if you tell yourself, well, I want to see what is my limit, I can push through, I am tired, but I'm still pushing through, then you're like achieving bigger results that maybe you didn't even think you could achieve in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love doing things that parallel my entrepreneurial experience. So for me, that looks like racing cars and pushing my body physically as hard as I can. Those things I find parallel my work because then they allow me to just like fully exert myself mentally and physically. And it almost makes the other stuff feel a little bit easier because then, you know, you're not going through a corner at 150 kilometers an hour or on kilometer 15 and your legs feel like they're going to fall apart. Like I find those challenges make I got to send 10 emails today and edit for 6 hours and make 6 phone calls. Like, it's still hard, but it becomes a little bit more approachable when there's a bit of perspective.
That is great. You mentioned something earlier that kind of touches on that with Stephanie's podcast, because I was here in the background listening, so got a little sneak peek of everything. But you mentioned that whenever you're filming, right, this is very physical, like sometimes to get specific angles and getting that perfect shot. And like how can you talk about that with like the limit that you just talked about? Like, can you expand on those experiences?
So like filming and physical aspect?
Yes.
So, I mean, early on, when I started playing with cameras, I never realized how important my physical state was until the camera started growing, started getting heavier. Cinema cameras are heavy and their lenses are heavy. They're made of metal instead of plastic. Photo lenses are plastic usually, and cinema lenses are metal. So the weight adds up. So I started realizing like these cameras are heavy, and I also at the same time was starting to pursue racing as an amateur. And all of these things required me to be, not that they required me to be, but in order to be at the top of my game, I needed to elevate my physical abilities. So I started paying more attention to my physical well-being, my strength, my endurance, and almost immediately noticed like crazy improvements in both regards. As I improved my physical state, everything else improved as a result. And so I've grown to kind of anchor myself in a good physical, I guess, routine, because it spills over into everything. And it's a very easy thing. Like if I don't know what to do with myself and I don't know what to do in my day, I just try and exercise, because it's like I can just turn my brain off and do it. And, you know, there's always going to be a good result unless you injure yourself, obviously.
Yeah.
But within reason, like there's always going to be something good that comes of it. Whether it's just feeling or just like blood flowing or mental clarity. And
I love how you did the full circle here, because you seem to have a really great balance between the physical and the mental, like in your work, which I know how old you are. I won't say it to our audience listening unless you want to share.
I don't mind. I'm 27.
Oh my gosh. Young chicken.
Young chicken. That's me.
Oh my goodness. But you are so well accomplished and like balanced. Like I know some people who are much more older and still trying to figure it out, and you seem to have your shit together, which is
I'm glad
amazing.
It looks that way, because I do, but I don't.
I mean, everyone's trying to figure it out, but you seem to be gliding. Like when you have a challenge, like, and again, I've known you for a little bit. We're friends now, but you like, it feels like you're very pragmatic about how you approach things. Am I reading in?
I actually don't know what pragmatic means.
Means like you're very logic and like you're dissecting it, and you're not you're not crazy emotional. You will look at a problem in a logical way and then say, okay, this is how I can move forward from it. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah,
it's I often look. I mean, I feel like we all do. I look above me. I look at what other people are doing and accomplishing, and I almost like, damn, like these people are on to some crazy shit. And I'm like, that's where I strive to such a high level, which it sometimes like actually is not a good thing, because then I don't meet that expectation and then I get mad at myself. But I try my best to stay consistent and just, lean into what I'm good at. I'm not good at everything. I suck at drawing. Terrible at drawing. Communication is an ever evolving practice of mine, which is why I like to podcast. And you giving me the opportunity to speak live was really scary, but it allowed me to then face that fear of like speaking in front of people. And it actually wasn't that scary.
The first 5 minutes is always the worst.
Yeah.
But then you're like, I'm actually talking about what I like to people who are like me, that are here to support me. So yes, you want to do a good job because you want to make sure that you're giving the information and making sure that there's value in what you're doing. But that stress also shows that you want to make it right.
Stress is good, I find.
Yes.
Stress is important. Anxiety is important. Otherwise, we would never get anything done.
We would not push ourselves.
No. So I think there's a level of anxiety that's actually health is the way humans have survived all these years. So I just try and I try to accept the uncomfortableness of being tired and physically sore and, doing things that are like hard. I'm just like, screw it. I'm just going to do it even though it sucks. And then it always ends up energizing me in the end. So that's that. But that paired with like momentum, which was the theme of a past event.
Yay, yes.
Momentum is huge in my life. Momentum keeps me, if I keep a steady pace and I don't push too far beyond the limit and I'm not too far under the limit, if I ride, that delicate, beautiful area of like, I'm at max output in a healthy way, then I find momentum builds, and then it's kind of crazy. And you almost, like, enthusiasm is contagious. So momentum and enthusiasm, it spreads, and then everyone around you starts to bounce energy back at you, and they start giving you ideas, and then they start giving you opportunities, and then together it's just this beautiful thing. And I'm seeing it evolve in Pano Media with the team and the guys that we're working with, and just seeing what they're even able to do, and then taking a back seat is like, it's freaking amazing. Like, it's just really cool.
So can you tell us more about Pano Media, like how it started and how it has evolved?
Pano Media used to be called Panorams.
Okay.
It was just Panorams.
That's cool with your name in it.
Yeah, my name is Ramzi, Panoramic. It's just a weird play on words. And I was just taking photos of cars because I wanted wallpapers on my iPod Touch and wallpapers on my computer. And I would just Google pictures of cars, and I'm like, I was always around cars. I love cars. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to take photos of these cars. And I started diving more into photography and started realizing this is really cool. And I started meeting people, and then I started seeing people making money doing it. And I was like, interesting. I always had a bit of a business mind. Growing up, my dad taught me how to turn $20 into $40 and turn $40 into $100 and so on and so forth. So I had a bit of a business foundation, and then I had a foundation of like working with my hands, because the way we were making money, a little side hustle, was finding lawnmowers on the side of the road, fixing them, selling them, or buying little mini motorbikes with tiny engines, fixing them, selling them at a profit. So I learned business. I learned how to work with my hands. And then once I found cameras, I was like, there's a business aspect of this, and then there's also a working with my hands element to it. And then there's also a creative output that brings a freaking smile to people's face. And then there's the whole experience of working with the people to then create the images. So, it kind of, in a way, it did kind of fall into place. I didn't initially intend to make a business out of it, but I started in photo. That eventually progressed to video because Instagram was starting to have videos.
Yep.
So videos were being more widely consumed. YouTube was blowing up. YouTuber became a thing. YouTuber wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
It became an avenue, a career path.
Yep.
So then I'm like, I started just doing more video, and early on I was lucky to connect with people who saw the value in video, and I got to shadow an incredible company, Ajax Creative, or it used to be called Ajax Visuals, but they're on a global scale. They're enormous now, Ottawa-based. Couple guys, passionate guys, brought me in and basically taught me a lot early on. So I saw what was possible with a small team and a small amount of tools and a lot of ambition and a lot of passion. And I got a glimpse of the film industry. I got a glimpse of the video industry. I got a glimpse of what was possible. And I said, screw it, it's time to attempt this. So COVID lined up beautifully. You got all these people paying attention to video content a lot more. So its value in our society became higher, which made it a little bit easier actually to sell the service. And so we just pushed it. And then from early on, my goal was to always incorporate and offer cinema level lighting, audio, camera techniques into the video space at scale, because of the time I was born. I find I'm very immersed in social media, in the YouTube space, in the film industry. So I have experience in all realms, and I like to bring them all together because I'm very passionate about creating images, because there's so many pieces that go into it. So our goal was to always do high-end, super high quality production, accessible to people, and just literally make magic with the tools that we have available, because we are so spoiled. Yeah. This fly's been in here all day.
This fly has been like
all day.
Third guest today. Like
we're super spoiled.
Yeah.
And like even this podcast is like a full exploration of audio, video, lighting, and so Pano Media continues to evolve. We currently are a video production studio, I would call it, where we specialize in aerial cinematography. So we're flying high-end cinema drones for the film industry, for television commercials, for YouTube. We're also doing studio productions, podcasting, real estate, high-end real estate, marketing content, automotive marketing content, and we're also dabbling in motorsports because that is kind of, that's the passion. That's where a lot of my passion comes from, is motorsports. So that's a little bit event recording too. Yeah, we do event recording as well, which
so
we record Izzy's lovely ODC events. So that's a little blurb on Pano Media.
Wow,
thank you for
there
asking.
was like so much here. So
I know.
Let me dissect that down. I'm not as skilled as you when it comes to like interviewing, but so basically we're here today to talk about like how do you use your hand, and you mentioned that already a couple times. And like you said that, I remember when I asked you to become the panel host, and you said, yes, I can like implement some of my own experiences. So you talked about you repairing cars and even like small motors that you were then turned into like more money and profit. So, and I like how you talk about using your hands for your craft today. For those who don't know, can you expand more on that?
On how we use our hands.
Yeah.
So a camera, in normal terms, like you may see a camera and a lens and be like, that's a camera. But in the video production space, in the cinema world, we build these cameras out to have support systems for wireless video transmission, wireless focusing, different supports to make it easier to hold them, to hold large lenses. Some lenses are like this big, and they're metal and they're heavy. So we build cameras. We build our lighting setups. Like, we're not actually building the lights themselves. We're getting stands, modifiers, lights.
But you're still positioning everything, and you're like, it's that little tweaking that requires like the finesse of fingers and to like.
Absolutely.
Right.
The finesse of the fingers, and it actually requires a lot of physical strength. So creating a set like this, for example, this takes, close to 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But then there's also, that's like 2 hours of we're here and everything's here. There's still all the equipment is in a storage facility. We got to bring it here. First we have to prep it. Then we have to bring it here. Then we have to set it all up. Then we have to put it into a position. So there's a lot of like physical aspect that comes with doing like this level of production with lighting and audio. So that's where the hands come into play, because you're interacting with this, you're carrying stuff, you're moving it around. And I basically leaned heavily into strengthening my body, because it allowed me to do this more often. Because if my body was not strong, then I couldn't do a set. I couldn't build a set multiple times a week. I would get tired, right? I'd be like, okay, got to rest, recharge, and then I'll do it again. But the stronger I got physically, the more frequently I was able to do this, which then allowed us to create more cool stuff, which then just built that momentum. So that's kind of how the hands come into play in that regard. And then when you're operating a camera, obviously you're using it. I love filming handheld because it feels real. Handheld and manual focus, because it's real. It's not like, when a human misses focus, it's more forgiving than if you see like a jarring focus shift of an autofocus lens. No hate to autofocus, but if you do video, I do recommend trying manual focus. It's really fun. So there's that part, and then there's like the dialing in the way your hands work. Flying drones as well is
I wanted to touch on
like I literally hold the controller like it's like a video game almost, but you have to. Flying a drone is fairly straightforward, but getting smooth shots and beautiful shots is where it gets tricky, because you're using the joysticks in a very specific way, and you're moving a camera on 3 different axes, and you're trying to do that all together while keeping framing in mind, while not flying into a tree, while monitoring the vitals of the drone so you don't run out of battery and crash. Like, I've definitely done that before. Oh
my goodness.
It's fine. You gotta make these mistakes to learn. And
at a large cost, though, I can imagine, for that one.
Yeah. I mean, start small. If you're gonna fly drones, start with cheap ones, because you will crash them, and it's actually important to crash drones. So if that's what you want,
it's important.
If you want to become a pro drone pilot, you need to crash. You have to.
It's a must on the checklist. So this is great, because some people might not think that video work is like that hands-on, and you basically just demystify that. And like specifically with the drones, like, and the the manual focus, to me, like the first thing that came to mind was like, this is literally your own touch, like through technically an object, but it's still your hands that are making all the decisions, which is so cool when you think about it. Because as a designer, I mean, it's somewhat the same when I design with the mouse, but I don't see it that way. But the way you described it, I can like subscribe to your train of thought and be like, yes, like this is still hands-on, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's your hands that are controlling whatever is being like developed in front of you.
There's almost always like a tactile input into it. And I find the tools you have don't matter. You don't need specific tools to achieve you don't need the best tools to achieve a desired outcome. But sometimes it's really valuable to have a tool that like excites you. And then when you're using it and interacting with it and you're like, oh my God, like this is freaking cool. And it fires you up. And then a lot of the times I will blow our budget on renting the craziest cameras that are available because I want to experience using it. And I want my team and the guys to have the opportunity to play with this stuff. And I'm just like, screw it. Like profit, fuck it. Like, let's just get the cameras in our hands because that's so much more valuable than money at this point. Because early on, like money's great. And I'm grateful that we have a good solid foundation to be able to then experiment in this realm. But I'm a big proponent to investing in tools that make you giggly and excited and just make you maybe work a little different or maybe give you a bit of relief or give you a little bit of feedback in a different way. So,
but that's how you grow too as a creative too. It's like you don't want to stay stagnant at the same place. Whenever you try new stuff like that, that's how you discover maybe like a new signature or like a new texture or like kind of, I guess for you would be the way of framing or viewing or storytelling whenever you try new things. So I like that. This is like a little golden nugget right here for everyone who's listening, regardless of your craft. Just try to do something new. Try to rent equipment. If you never had a Wacom tablet and you're a designer, try it, you know? Like,
is that the one with the pen?
Yes. Yeah.
You draw it.
You draw on this like tablet that is connected to your computer, and you can actually use like it's a pen, so you can draw and then it just shows on the computer. It has a little bit of a mind fuck at the beginning because you're used to drawing, well, for me anyway, drawing on a paper where you're looking at the paper, but then you need to draw, but you're looking at your screen.
Wow.
So yeah,
I love it.
But it's fun. It's like for getting little details, or like when it's like, I like it to play with pixels. You can like move things around and it's cool. Or that or illustration work, which I wish I did more. But you
are a graphic designer by profession, right?
Yes.
Cool.
I mean,
or a brand design. You do a lot. You do a lot of stuff.
Yes. But I'd say, graphic design is where I like felt my best because I mean, just go back to the other podcast that we have recorded.
Izzy was a guest on our podcast. I learned so much about brand design and identity. A logo is not a brand.
It's not a brand.
Touch points are very important.
Yes. That's great.
I listen. The touch point. I always think about that actually now. Like the touch points, from what I remember, it's just like every point of interaction with an event or a brand is a touch point. It's like this episode is a touch point for the creatives, right?
Everything is a touch point whenever we interact. Like me even having a conversation outside of this like filming is a touch point to my personal brand. So everything becomes a touch point to however you want to present to the world, depending if it's a business or a personal brand.
I love it. Yeah. And your events are really cool.
Thank you.
Ottawa Design Club events hosted in Ottawa multiple times a year. They're really cool. Because I noticed now that I know what you're doing, I can see the things. I'm like, this is really cool. I see all the touch points, the interaction points, and it's really sweet. And I've met so many really cool people and been inspired just from being in a room of people.
Good.
Creative people who are curious. Like it's just like, I find there's no pressure to be anyone. It's just like, let's just hang out, learn, talk, and carry on with our lives. That's why I love those events.
It was very important for us to make sure that the space felt safe and that people could just be themselves and network and find new friendship, maybe new relationships, who knows? Just based on being together. But I want to come back to you because then I'll start.
I've started interviewing you.
Exactly. I mean, I don't mind it, but I like to be interviewed.
As do I. This rarely happens for me.
But you mentioned touch points, right? So if we go back to that, because that's like, again, like with your hands, I mean, you can have physical touch points. You can also have digital touch points if we go into the business realm, but like coming back to working with our hands, do you see some similarities between you working on cars and fixing cars, or like a philosophy that whenever you do that type of work that you bring back to your work at Pano Media?
Yes. Short answer. Yes. I mean, okay, cars are, to some people, cars are just it's to bring you from here to here reliably. That's it.
Guilty.
Safely. That's fine.
Guilty.
But that's why they're really cool, because they can be used in multiple ways. For others, cars are an expression of creativity. They're an expression of self. They are an expression of identity. And then for some people, they're tools to go as fast as you humanly can around a racetrack. And I kind of fall in the realm where I love building cars as a form of expression, because like I said, I'm not like traditionally artistic. I can't draw or paint. So that's why I'm drawn to ways I can be input technically, but output creatively. So I love customizing cars and building them that way. But then I also love driving them, because for me, driving a car at the limit is almost like playing an instrument. I drive my car's 33 years old. It's all analog. There's no traction control or ABS.
Older than you.
It is older than me. Actually,
crazy.
It's cool because it was been around for longer than I have. But what I love about that, it's engaging both my legs, both my arms, and I'm just basically strapped into the car. I become one with it. And you get in this rhythm and this flow while driving in a high performance environment that to me feels like playing an instrument. And then you just fine tune little bits of your driving, and it's a very, very, very beautiful experience. And then there's also the gratification of knowing that you laid on the floor of a concrete garage, got showered in rust and miscellaneous fluids, and but you did it, and you struggled through it, and maybe you hurt yourself in the process, or you burned yourself, or you cut your hand, or you punched the thing by accident, whatever. You got a little battered, but then when you get to the track, or you get to the road or the event where you get to share it with the world, or at least test what you've done, that is a really, really beautiful experience, because that it is. It's an experience, and you can share that experience with other people. You can bring other people along. They can sit beside you, go for a drive. They can look at it and smile, or whatever it is. So I find a lot of what I do with cars, it teaches me how to kind of find my limits in a way. And then that also plays out in business, because I can build and customize my operation, my team, my camera, whatever it is. And then I get to go out in the world and put it to the test, and then share that experience with other people, and then also share the output. So that's kind of how cars relate. And I'm a freaking nerd when it comes to like cars, because I love all the formats. Like I love experiencing all the formats. I may or may not have 4 cars and an ATV, because I like to experience. I have front wheel drive, I have rear wheel drive, I have all wheel drive.
Okay.
And then there's a road racer, an ice racer, a summer daily driver, and then the station wagon is for utility, and then an ATV because I love going off road. It's really cool because cars just can't go between the trees. So all of this is to say, I love the experience. It's painful because you have to put a lot of time and effort and money sometimes into maintaining this and managing it all. But it teaches me a lot about what I'm capable of. And then it also enables really, really unique experiences.
I love how you described it, because as you were mentioning everything that you just did, it made me think about my days back in doing my BFA, where I was doing large painting formats, and everything that you had said, minus the miscellaneous fluids like on me. Granted, like I was working with like oils and acrylics and stuff like that, but it's the same exact process. And I mean, to the mission of your podcast, this is why like those conversations are important, because it's like, personally, like before hearing you say it, I would not think that that was a creative thing, but you totally just changed my mind about it. Yeah.
I love it.
Accomplished.
I love it. It's not something I realized until fairly recently. Only in the last couple of years, I realized that, because I never considered myself an artist, right? Growing up, I was always on like the academic path and, you know, doing things that were not considered art. So yeah, as I grew up and I matured and I kind of opened my mind a little bit more, and also like meeting people like you and being immersed in that community, I started to kind of reframe. I'm like, okay, maybe I am an artist, but just different. And then I actually interviewed Lauren Spangler. She was actually a virtual guest, but she said, you may be an artist, but you're not a professional artist. And I'm like, yes. That one hit home. So I'm like, I'm not a professional. Same way, I'm a racing driver. I'm just not a professional racing driver. Because oftentimes I'm like, am I a racing driver? Like, does it count? Like, I've only done a few regional races, local stuff. But then I'm like, no, screw it. I am a racing driver. I'm just amateur. And amateur means with love, apparently. Like, doesn't it? Something about, that's what my friend told me. To be an amateur at something, it means something about love. You do it out of love.
Yeah, I can subscribe to that.
You're like, no, I'm French and this is wrong.
No, I mean, it's just, to me, sometimes the word amateur has some negative connotation to it. So I'd say you're definitely like interested, and like this is one of your passions. Yeah. Whereas like, to me, amateur is like fine, and maybe in the technical side of things that you're not winning your life with by racing cars, but
you actually lose money going racing. Fun fact, most people pay to race. Not many people get paid to race. Oh, so it's the quickest way to go from being a billionaire to a millionaire is to go racing. You just like, that was absolutely burn money, but it's really fun. And I bet we won't get too far into that. But yeah, that's all that long-winded answer. Yeah. I started to realize that I can be technical with a creative output and kind of identify as an artist a little bit more and kind of grow into that space, but it's still an ongoing exploration.
I'd say regardless of like, because artist has a specific definition, and this is also personally what I have been exploring in my own career, and obviously by like doing the Ottawa Design Club. But there is a big difference between being an artist and being a creative. And I like the definition of a creative better.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because creative has a bigger umbrella, because everyone can be creative. So for me, this is more inclusive. And whether you're solving a problem, like it could be about, you know, your motor's not working that day and you need to like add some fluids or whatever to your engine.
Go cry and spend $10,000 to try and fix it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
You're like, been there maybe? Have you? Like 10K on a car?
Not in one shot, but
okay, like added together. Well,
it gets like when you build, and then you get it, and then it breaks, and you're like, I have option. I can keep peeling the onion and go further, and in hope that it works. So I'm currently riding. So I was building my race car for like 4 years, got it to an amazing point, and then blew up the engine last year. And then I'm like, what do I do? Do I start again with something newer, more modern, or do I just keep going? And it was difficult, but I kept going, and I'm still riding. And then I put another engine in the car. Wow. And then that engine was secondhand, so it didn't run amazing. So I'm almost done. Literally, like tomorrow, I will be potentially starting that engine after rebuilding the whole inside of it.
Wow.
And it might not work. That's the crazy thing. Then I have to spend more money to try to figure out.
But see, again, like the way you described it, it's still something that every creative goes through no matter what, because I can only think again, going from my own experiences here and again, because I was here for Stephanie, like she's building mural. It's like she does not know like how the people will react to it, if they're going to like it, if they're not going to like it, if it's going to work. Or even myself, I'm like, whenever I'm designing a brand, the first iteration when I'm presenting, I don't know if the client is going to go for it or not, if I'm going to have to come back to it and tweak it.
For sure.
It's the same exact process, which, yeah, that's definitely a creative thing. Again, coming back to that umbrella.
I feel like also with your events that you do, you go into these not knowing if you're going to sell any tickets, right? You don't know if it's going to be received well. And they have all been received very well, but I know how much effort and time and like work that goes into it. But I'm sure it's crazy. It is crazy.
I cry every time.
It's okay.
And like, there's not one event that I didn't tell myself, oh yeah, I'm quitting for the next one.
But I mean, you're pushing limits, right? You're finding limits, and from the outside, it's received very well. And like, you do it, like you said to me, like, you know, I seem to like gracefully have my shit together, but that's how it seems when you're putting these events together.
Oh,
you seem like you're just doing it, and like, because people are interacting on the day. They don't know what's going on. They just show up, they have a good time, they go home, right?
Yes.
So you're creating a really beautiful experience.
Thank you.
For
Can I share a secret? I know, again, I'm not the interviewee here, but for the last event, because we're talking about that, but for the last event, Hands-On Vibes, the day of, I actually cried for 2 hours in the morning because I was so overwhelmed with everything that had just happened in the last month with the event, and just not knowing what I was getting myself into for the night, because it was the first time that we did that model and there was a lot of logistics. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm a sensitive person, but I'm also very like goal driven. So I can like I can never say that word, but compartimentaliser, which means like
compartmentalize.
Yes, thank you. That's like, it's been so hard for me with this word for like years. I should practice on like Duolingo or something. But that day it was just like too much, and I'm just like, I just need to let it out, because then it's gonna show at the event like that night. So I went back to bed. Like, I was up at 7. I went back to bed. It was 9. I remember. I like put the covers on top of me and I just like cried. And then I'm like, okay, I got this after.
I love it. I mean, it's tough, but thank you for being vulnerable. Do you find though, like, you seem to keep pushing what you're capable of, pushing your boundaries, pushing your limits. Do you find yourself growing each time from it?
It's been very interesting for me. Again, you're interviewing me now.
I'm just curious.
This is hard.
I've never been interviewed in my life. I actually haven't.
Really?
No, I've never had a job interview in my life.
Oh my gosh, this is okay.
Because I always interview everyone.
That later. Okay.
I'll talk more in a sec.
Okay.
I can't tell my secrets.
What was the?
Are you growing from all of these? Because you're obviously pushing yourself to your limits, and like, once the dust settles and you've kind of like rested and whatever, do you find there's growth, there's lessons? Like, how does that work for you?
Yes, for sure. And to me, what keeps me going is observing the audience, because I always want to bring value to the audience, and like the whole like meaning of doing those events is definitely building a community and you know, connections and all this. So I always want to make sure that there's something new or newer with our experiences. And I guess with having new speakers every time, the experience is technically always the same, but the format is the same. So it's like, how can we keep people on their toes? And it's the same thing with the zines. Like, we have like a strategy session where it's like, okay, what are we going to do next year? What are we going to, you know, make sure that people come back? And this is how like you run the event. But it, like, for me, it's also like I'm looking at everything with like a microscopic lens or a wide lens at the same time. So it's like a very interesting experience. So my brain really never shuts down ever.
But you're growing from it all.
I'm growing from it, definitely. But see, like, this is why I like the partnership with Pano Media, because like they film all of our speakers. You can like go to YouTube and check that out. And we always have like a nice highlight reel as well. And that's actually when I know if it's good or not. It's
from the highlight
from
reel?
the highlight reel.
Really?
Yeah, because I see it from such like an organizational lens when I'm at the event. Like I don't get to experience it. So whenever we get the highlight reel, I'm like, okay, that looked like a success. So
I love
great.
so Ryan is the editor of the
Yes.
podcast. Ryan
Hey,
works
Ryan.
closely with Pano Media, and he's just an amazing human. But he's the one who he takes care of those. He films them, he edits them, and
It's like
every
kick-ass
time I
every
see them, I'm
time.
like, yo.
So good.
There's one from the hands-on event. Is really
Yes.
cool.
Coming out soon.
Coming out soon.
Well, I mean, it's probably
It
gonna
might be,
come out
yeah.
like before like this podcast, but
It's cool.
yeah.
Because also on those days, I'm usually busy focusing on recording the speakers. So Ryan takes care of the filming a highlight reel. So for me, it's also a little surprise too. After I'm like, ooh, this is cool.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned something that I picked up on, and you said I'll never tell my secret, but you'll have to spill the beans.
I
'Cause
spilled the beans.
yes, you said that you've never had an interview before. So again, I know the community that is listening to your podcast. I know the community that is coming to our events, and a lot of them are trying to find their footing into that creative career that you have, that I have. How come you've never had an interview? Like, tell us more about that.
So I am just by nature a very curious person. That's why I love podcasting. It's why, like you say to me, and people say to me, like, oh, you did such a great job hosting that panel. I'm like genuinely curious. I love being able to have the opportunity to learn from people, because attention is scarce and people are busy. And as you know, everyone has a million things to do.
Yep.
So when I have the opportunity to sit and chat with someone, I'm just like, let me learn from them. Let's share some experiences, share some stories. So I always lead with curiosity. And I'm not doing this on purpose. Sometimes maybe, but I'm not usually doing it on purpose. But I always ask questions. And I started interviewing you by accident because I'm just curious. Like, questions come up in conversation. So I've never had like a job interview. Like I worked in a kitchen for 7 years. Then I worked in a simulator shop, and then I just kind of from there transitioned into like self-employment, where yes, I kind of had like client meetings.
Yeah. Discovery calls
To kind of lock down some clients. But even in those situations, I'm still leading with curiosity, and I'm asking the person, I ask them questions. So I'm always turning them around. Not on purpose, like not because it's like there's no malicious intent here. I'm just genuinely curious. And people love to talk about themselves.
Yes.
And because they don't always have the opportunity to. And that's also why I love hosting this podcast, because I love giving people an opportunity to have a platform to share with the world all that they do, because, you know, maybe they've been grinding for 5 years and never had a chance to just talk for an hour about themselves. So I love empowering people that way. And there's also many other reasons I podcast. It's just fun. So
It is.
interview. Yeah. I don't know. I read a book called, this is a secret. Maybe this is one of my secrets.
This is a secret.
It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
It's a good book. I learned a lot about communication from that book, but essentially I try to empower people through conversation, and that ends up being through asking them questions, leading with curiosity. And more often than almost every time, actually, a person will leave a conversation having spoken the entire time. They will think you're an excellent conversationalist.
Yes.
And you barely said anything.
Yeah.
All you did was listen, give them your full attention, and be genuinely curious with good intentions. And they'll think you're a great conversationalist. You've said 10 words.
Yeah.
So I kind of embody that approach in all that I do, because it's actually really fun. It's fun. You get to know people. People tell you things.
Yes.
And they're often saying, I don't know why I told you that. And because I'm not going to weaponize anything anyone ever tells me. I'm never going to use it against them. I'm truly, genuinely curious. And within that curiosity, I often find ways we can relate with one another, ways we could potentially grow together, work together, or maybe just be friends, like whatever it is. So that's kind of how I've never really officially been interviewed.
This is golden. And like, I think, so there's two things that are very important here. There's like the fact that you said that it's very genuine, because if you're forcing it and you're just asking question to ask question and not truly listening, people will pick up on it. But you're also like such a great listener that it is genuine, because like the follow-up questions are also like very meaningful. And coming back to what you said too about giving the time and space for creatives to talk about it, something that came to mind is, and I guess I'm also including myself in this, but it's nice to have a platform like this because we never get to peel the onion until like the middle.
Yeah.
Whenever you meet someone in a networking situation, or like you're just like, hey, you're creative, it's like you'll have like 10 minutes and you have to kind of say everything. But to me, that's not enough to like tell everything. Like again, I was listening earlier with Stephanie's podcast and the way that she used her dreams and like her beliefs and stuff like that. I was like, wow, like even when I had the interview with her to bring her on the panel, she did not mention all this, but by doing something like that, taking the time, like there's so much more. And I think she's like so freaking cool now. Like she was cool before, she's like even cooler now. But this is like those special moments that are being created just by asking good questions and listening.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because the feedback I get from the audience, from anyone who listens, and they enjoy it, I love it, because that's how I feel when I'm sitting here interviewing someone too. I'm just like, I'm experiencing that person's mind and that person's stories.
Yeah.
And I love it too. So it's really cool that, you know, we can share it. And then it's also really fun to push our technical abilities and our cinematography abilities. Like we take a lot of pride in having like a cinematic podcast where we don't have to put this much effort into lighting and audio, but we like to, because it's fun and it's a testament to who we are as people and what we can create. But it's still a fully creative endeavor. There's no financial I guess motivation. We make $0. It actually costs money to make these podcasts. Absolutely. But again, like it's fuck money. Like I don't care necessarily.
Money.
Money's great. You need money to live, but I find like,
but it's also for the soul, right? Like you need those creative endeavors to feed your soul.
And I find money is one of those things, there's so much energy around it.
Yeah.
So if you focus on, you know, being the best human you can be, and don't bullshit yourself, like actually take a good look and have the humility to be like, I'm shit at this, or I'm wasting time doing this. I find if you're true to yourself and you kind of show up every day with everything you've got, most things tend to kind of fall into place. For me, at least, that seems to be working. And I believe it's possible. Like but it's hard. Obviously. It is hard. That's what sucks. It is hard.
It is hard. Yes. And it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of,
you have to sacrifice
so much
stuff, as you know what it feels like to work from when you wake up to when you go to sleep.
A little too much. Yes.
But yeah, here we are.
I like the fact that you said that you're putting all of this extra step in the podcast, where you're building the set and, you know, making sure that the sound quality is awesome. But to have a full circle moment to what we were talking about, that's again pushing your limit within like what you can offer to the audience that you're cultivating on here.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
I never thought the creatives would even make it this far. This is technically the 35th episode.
Wow.
I never thought we would make it this far. I was just like exploring, and I'm still exploring, but now there's like that exploration led to new ideas, and I'm like, ooh, there's potential to like grow this, turn it into a new business, turn it into partnerships. And yeah, I still have no clue where it's going.
I mean,
like I have no clue.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's an exploration.
It is, yeah. And I think no matter what, that's the human experience. Like we kind of have an idea where we want to go, but we don't really know where we're going. right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
And they're like, you're so put together. I don't know.
You're so put. No, I may seem like I'm put together, but
You are. I'd say you are.
because I do listen. I try to learn as much as possible. I listen to podcasts. I read books that can help me kind of like improve my performance and my just abilities. And one thing I found that really helps, especially being an entrepreneur, not having a structure, is grounding myself in a few daily habits, which are a good morning routine and then a frequent exercise routine. Those things have those, and then journaling as well is another way. The thing I've picked up over the last year and doing it regularly helps me to kind of, it's actually very relieving. It's kind of crazy. Like you can, because I have a very active mind, but if I sit and journal, you can only write down as fast as your hand can move. You can only think as fast as your hand can move. So it slows down my mind. It helps me to look at my thoughts from an outside perspective, and then they seem a little less scary or daunting. So the journaling, the morning, my morning routine, which I encourage everyone, is hydration, light, and movement in that order. So if you can only get one, get hydration. If you can get two, get hydration and light. That means going outside, not looking at your phone. That means look at the sky. If it's sunny, don't look directly at the sun, but look in the direction of the sun. And then movement, walking, exercise, whatever, even if it's like a 5-minute walk. So incorporating those 3 things into my mornings, like dramatically changed my life. I find I'm energized throughout the day. I feel like I own my days more. And then that in turn allows me to navigate the uncertainty that comes with being an entrepreneur. The freaking crazy difficult decisions you have to make become a little less difficult. You feel like you're doing things. You feel like I feel like I can separate my work from my personal life a bit better when I have that balance. And I
think it also anchors you because, again, I'm also self-employed, so you never know where the day can take you. So by having a routine in the morning, I think it anchors you. It's like, okay, this is like the one thing that I know will go like according to plan today.
I agree.
Yeah. And then journaling at night if you're doing that every night.
There's such simple things that are like maybe cheesy, maybe rolling your eyes listening to this and being like, wow, forget it. But I encourage you to try it and then just see how, like, don't show anyone your journal.
No, that's private.
Like it's private. Yeah. Don't journal with an objective. Just like put your thoughts out of your head and then try that morning routine. And like the hydration involves electrolytes. It's not just water. You got electrolytes because those allow you to retain the water. The biohacking bros on Instagram got me on this for sure. The podcasters that are sponsored by all the freaking, they're like, try it. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And I was like, whoa, this actually works.
Nice.
So here we are.
That's good.
Here we are.
I'm also on the health journey, so I totally feel you about that. So.
You hydrating every morning?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. That, and I will have a detox water in the morning.
Sweet.
And
the podcasters sold you on that, didn't they?
Yes.
Did someone have a sponsored post?
No, I actually make my own detox water.
You make it? What is it?
So it's cinnamon. Hold on. I do my own juicing. So it would be turmeric, ginger, lemon, and then I add a bit of cinnamon and cayenne pepper, and I freeze it. And then I have ice cube, and then I put some hot water, or like in regular water, it melts, and then that's my detox water for the morning, just to get rid of all the toxin. I
love that.
Yeah. I haven't necessarily seen anything, but I think I'm clinically burnt out. So.
I still worked 70 hours this week, but detox water.
Detox helps me.
No, I feel that. Sometimes I am just absolutely toasted and have nothing in me. And I just got to like dial back and just be an alligator. I call it like alligator mode. Some people call it like, I'm just rotting on a couch. Like, no, you're way better than that. You're not rotting. Speak nicer about yourself. I call it alligator mode because then just like, an alligator just sits.
Like, yes.
You're just conserving energy.
Yeah.
And then like you're waiting. And then once you're ready to attack, hypothetically, metaphorically, you're not actually going to attack. Well, I hope
actually, on that, if you want to go back to Alex Scatterby, actually talks about slug mode in her presentation, which is
true.
exactly what that is. And you need that in order to rejuvenate on creativity. So this was such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. Ramzi, you do so much for the community. You do so much for the club. You're such an important component in our community and part of the Ottawa Design Club growth. I just want to say thank you, and thank you for hosting all of those podcasts today, and just carry on the wonderful conversation that you had from being our panel host at our last event.
Thank you, Izzy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love Ottawa, and I love that we connected because you are also pioneering Ottawa and pushing it forward into the light, so that maybe one day when I travel and I tell people I'm from Ottawa, they will actually know where Ottawa is.
Oh, that would be so cool.
That'd be great. But
yes.
no, I love it. And there's a reason why I've stuck around and, committed to working with you guys, is because you recognize how amazing the city is and the people that live here, and you're putting a lot of effort into doing it. So I'm proud to have the opportunity to contribute to that. And it's fun. It's really fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Even though I cry sometimes, all the time, it's really fun.
It's okay. We are multidimensional beings.
Yes.
And we experience all the things.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it's fun to be interviewed. So thanks.
Oh, I mean, it was so fun. I want to do it again. Have me back.
We'll have Izzy back for sure. This is her second time. You're, I think, the only person to appear twice on the show so far.
Nice.
So, except for me, I've appeared every episode.
Yes. So not true then.
No, but you've appeared twice.
Yeah, I know,
I've
but
appeared 35 times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not winning. You're winning the race.
No, it's not a race. Not everything's a race. This is what I tell myself when I race everyone in traffic.
Push the limit.
Find those limits. Thank you, Izzy. That was really fun.
Yeah.
This is a lot of podcasts to record.
Yes.
If you're watching this, I've been changing outfits after every episode, so it looks like it's a different day, but it's all the same day.
Commitment.
All the same day. It's been a fun challenge. This whole experience of blending the Hands-On Vibes event with the Creators Podcasts, with the Building Bridges zine, which this is all part. So we've bridged Ottawa Design Club and the Creators Podcast and the Hands-On Design event, and those bridges have been built and they're being submitted to the upcoming zine.
Yes.
Where that's the theme of the zine, right? It's building bridges.
Building bridges, bringing stuff that you won't necessarily think that goes together, that you can merge together, or how do you see someone else's point of view to go from A to B and meet in the middle? There's so much to explore with the theme of building bridges. And the artists that we're featuring are doing that in an impeccable way. I mean, you're going to be listening to this as you probably...
And it's going to be out.
It's going to be out.
The zine will be out available.
Yes. So yes, we can talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later. But all that matters is check out the Ottawa Design Club, because it's called the Design Club. I am nowhere even close to being a designer, graphic designer, but there's a place for us to be able to learn from designers or learn from people involved with the Ottawa Design Club. And like you just said, we never realized there was a potential to bridge podcasting and video production with the design world, but we found a way to do it through conversation, through exploration of the topic of creativity.
It's design and the verb of it, like designing the experience, designing the output, designing the set, right? Like design as the verb, not the like not graphic design per se. That's how I see the Design Club.
How you
it's
say
like
that.
It's design in the general sense, not just the craft.
I love that, because you can design an experience.
Yes.
Like you said, design a set.
Yes.
It's cool. I never thought of it framed that way. Usually I say we're building a set, but it's cool to say we're designing a set.
No, you are definitely designing.
Cool. With that, Izzy,
thank you so much for letting me interview you. This was so fun.
Thank you. This was really fun. And thank you to all of you for listening, for watching, for being a part of this exploration of creativity, for, being a part of the Ottawa Design Club. If you are interested and you want to know more, all the links, Izzy's information, Ottawa Design Club's information, Pano Media, Midnight Hour Studios, everything that is related to this podcast and fueling this podcast will be linked down below. I really encourage you to attend one of the Ottawa Design Club events. There's a couple more in 2024, and there will be more next year. So check out their pages to get all the latest information on those. They're open to everybody. You do not have to be in a certain category of profession. Show up, have a snack, have a beverage, meet some cool people, learn a thing or two, and check out how cool Ottawa is.
Yes.
It's a great city.
It is a great city.
It's a cool place. We're on the come up. I see a lot of potential in this city, and that is a big motivator in a lot of the things I do, because there's a lot of everything here. We are very blessed to have a city like this and people like this in our city and opportunities. So we're going to continue pushing forward.
Yes.
Shout out Ryan, our editor, who's doing a lot of magic that you can't see. And thank you for listening.
Yes.
The podcast is available on all major streaming platforms and YouTube, and we post clips on social media. If you're listening and not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us to continue the show and show other people what we do. Share it with someone you love. Spark a conversation about creativity with them. You'll be surprised where it could lead you. So, Izzy, thank you.
Thank you, Ramzi.
My pleasure. See you all soon. Bye for now.